I'm Alessandra Barrett, Special Projects Editor for the Journal of Commerce. I'm at our annual TPM conference in Long Beach, California, and I'm joined by Bill Rooney, Vice President of Transpacific Sea Freight for Kuehne Nagel. Thanks for speaking with me today, Bill.
Thanks, Allie. It's great to be here.
The TPM conversation focuses a lot on rates. What else can shippers do to remain competitive?
Shippers have to consider a much more complete set of attributes in the transportation services they buy, and rate is only one aspect. And even if you are considering the total financial cost of transportation, unit prices or rates are only one part of that. You have to take the unit price times the number of boxes, but you also have to add to that other attributes of the service which affect the bottom line cost, which is transit times, on-time reliability, that sort of thing. So shippers need to consider all of those things, not just rate. They need to consider reliability, transit time, other service characteristics, a company's ability to respond to problems. So there's really, rate is really sort of a simplistic way to look at what transportation purchasers are really buying. They're really buying something a lot broader than that, and they need to focus on something that's broader than just rate.
As the Trans-Pacific trade continues to change, how do you see the role of NVOs and 3PLs changing as well?
I see, if you look at the business today, the percentage of the Trans-Pacific business which is controlled, let's call it, by NVOs is somewhere between 35 and 40%. I think if you talk to most people in the business, they would see that percentage growing. And the reason it grows is NVOs generally are going to provide a service that has, I would say, more and better service in the sense that we would focus more on things in addition to supplying simply vessel space and a rate, which I think many people would associate with what they're buying from a carrier. They're buying more or less space through time, vessel space at a rate. We enhance that with not only vessel space through time and a rate, but we enhance it with broader port coverage than any individual carrier. We generally have a broader selection of geographies and port coverage that we're going to offer to customers, days of the week, cutoffs. Because we deal with, in our case, in Kuehne Nagel's case, 18 to 20 carriers in the Trans-Pacific, we can offer services that call upon all of those, if necessary, all those 18 to 20 carriers, which does give us certain things that an individual carrier can't offer. As I said, we have basically 7 sailings a day from Asia to the U.S., and that's something that we can do and we think provides our customers with something a bit different than what carriers can provide.
We were speaking earlier about how the environment is changed completely from from 10 years ago. It's a much slower growth environment. What are your predictions of the lasting impact that that'll have?
I think it's pretty much accepted wisdom at this point that not just in the Trans-Pacific but globally, we're in a period that appears as if it's going to last of much slower growth. 10 years ago, global trade was growing at close to double digits. The Trans-Pacific was in there in certain cases at double digits. And when you're growing at rates that are closer to 3, 4, 5% as opposed to 8, 9, 10%, that's a whole different world. It makes a big difference in terms of asset acquisition by carriers, what they're going to do and not going to do, and making money in an environment where you have a growth rate of 3%, regardless of who you are, is a lot more difficult than making money in a market where the market's growing at 8, 9, 10%. And it's going to change, I think, the focus. People, and people by that I mean participants in the industry, I think we'll begin focusing less on the asset part of the business and more on the service part of the business, which is where I think we as Kuehne Nagel excel. And I think that's a big difference. It's harder to make money in slow growth markets, and all of us, including Kuehne Nagel and the industry, are going to have to get used to that and get better at it.
Thanks for speaking with us today.
Thank you. It was great.
I've been speaking with Bill Rooney, Vice President of Transpacific Sea Freight for Kuehne Nagel.